I'm Johnny Millennium, and this is Victor Lucas, and this is Film Fury. And today we're going to review Stranger Things 2, one of the most anticipated new Netflix shows. Really excited to talk about it, but just before that, I want to thank our friends at the VFS School of Film. So there's a lot of expectations for Stranger Things 2.
Absolutely.
The first one was a kind of a cult experience. You know, no pun intended. You just started watching it and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea this was going to be this freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So a lot of expectations. How did it live up to you?
It started slow, and I felt like they were trying to kind of, re-get into the mode and sort of reconnect with hitting all the charm buttons and all the nostalgia play that the first season did. And I think we gave the first season a lot of leeway in that regard because everything was new.
I know.
And it was a surprise, and it was so evocative of this era, this 80s sort of movie era, and lots of references for the Goonies and
Dungeons and Dragons and wonderful stuff.
Yeah, amazing
old movies,
stuff.
Yeah.
So all of that percolates again. We've got Terminator in here. We've got a little Back to the Future, like everything.
Dragon's Lairs in there.
Yeah, including an amazing soundtrack, Oingo Boingo and the Police, and all kinds of incredible tunes, and the vibe and the hairstyles and the clothing. And I think the beginning of the season is just trying to kind of get into the groove. We don't want to show off the monsters and the big effects and the emotional stuff too soon. But then it comes in, those monsters and those big effects and those emotional moments, and I was riveted and completely blown away by the professionalism and the
production
craft
value on the end,
and the performances. And I have to give a special call out to William Byers, Noah Schnapp. That kid is incredible because he is like almost comatose in bits. He's being sort of jostled around by imaginary forces, from the.
It's all really about him in a lot of ways.
And he is
centered on him, his emotions.
He's crying and he's shrieking and he's screaming.
Looking off into the distance, confused.
Yeah, and all the people around him are completely terrified about what he's going through, and he just sells every freaking scene, and that is so hard to do. And the kid's like 10, and he's so goddamn good.
Just to talk about these kids for a second, they all are so good.
They are.
And what is amazing is I watched some of the behind the scenes stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
And then, it's so funny. They're all around this table, and they're such kids.
They're kids.
Yeah, and what we're gonna see. Over the years, these kids are going to grow, they're going to mature, they're incredible. I was thinking about myself when I was their age.
Yeah.
I could have acted my way out of a paper bag.
They're so professional.
And they're crying on screen, screaming, all this emotion. They're doing it so well. And I think over the years, these kids are going to be huge in time.
Absolutely.
They're already huge now.
But you know what? Everybody is good in this thing.
Everybody is.
Paul Reiser makes an appearance in this thing. I've loved that actor forever. Since he was the douchebag in Aliens. And I used to like Mad About You.
And then we got to say, we got to start talking about that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we see him, I'm like, Burke's in this?
Yeah.
And a lot of the things in Stranger Things 2, there's a lot of scenes that are so, like, they're homages to, like, Aliens.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to ruin anything or for anything, but there's some scenes taken directly out of Aliens.
Well, 100%. I mean, I think you can kind of fault the show for that, but that's also a huge element of the charm and the instant emotional hook, and especially for people like you and I who grew up with that stuff. And I watched a little of the behind the scenes stuff too, and the guys, the Duffer Brothers, they're kids, they're young, man.
I know, they're like, what do you mean we can't be playing D&D to the kids?
But they're young guys that made this thing, and I can't believe their affinity and their sort of awareness. It's like I guess they just watched all the movies on VHS or whatever video format they started to watch, but we were there as these movies were hitting, and they were changing our lives in real time.
I know.
And it's kind of surreal to go back to high school dances and to watch jocks pick on nerds and
you see people playing, as they say, Dragon's Lair right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Stranger Things 2.
Yeah.
But I think the story was stronger in Stranger Things 1. And just like you said, I don't know if it's because it was the introduction of this brand new series, all these kids, and we're like, wow, it's like the 80s, this brilliant soundtrack and all this. Oh my, Winona Ryder is back and all this. But I actually think the story was stronger in the first one, but I think the production value some of the introductions of the new characters.
They got some real money.
They got some real money. We won't talk about that. Last episode, I was like, Oh my God, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
I did love the arc that we go through here. You know, like William Byers' role is amazing, but Steve goes through a huge transformative process.
Every character does.
Sean Astin has a great supporting role in this thing, and he's fantastic.
When I saw him in the credits, I'm like, he's in this?
Yes, he's great.
He's really good.
And I love David Harbour. He seems to me like he is pulling off a Harrison Ford impression through all of this, and he's great. He's smoking and like,
always smoking.
Food and
me being an ex-smoker, I'm like, oh, dude, stop smoking so much.
And Millie Bobby Brown, who plays 11, is sensational.
And she gets an entire story arc that we won't talk about. That is so cool, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a little bit hokey, but I'm glad it happened. Yeah. And I hope that they follow through with that storyline. I think they will.
I think they will. It reminded me a little bit of cutscenes from Infamous.
Stuff like that,
you know, but it was still great, you know, and it was still...
And she's coming into her own.
Yes.
She really matured as a character as well.
Yep.
It's too bad. We don't, as I say, we don't have spoilers for any of this.
I mean, the one thing that I would say about Stranger Things, though, is that, and like a lot of the movies from the 80s, it goes from these real moments of terror and horror show, like people dying and getting things cut off, and then the kids are just playfully and running and screaming, running from monsters, and they're sort of playing like everything is kind of the same, you know?
Yeah, I know.
And it's a weird like up and down, but that's fitting for the content that this show is trying to kind of immortalize and honor and sort of tip its hat towards. So
it's a show, and it's having fun, and it's being far-fetched, and it's being ridiculous.
It's a very meta show.
Yeah,
like, it's very connected.
Where's
to
all the police? Where's all the stuff going on? This facility should be shut down.
Yeah, and the parents are kind of...
Where are the parents? I said to Kim, I was watching it with my wife, I'm like, where are the damn parents? These kids are gone for like 2 days at a time.
But you can't really, like, it's a comic book, you know?
It's a comic book.
It's like an 80s comic book on screen that's in love with the 80s. And I think that if you are a fan of all of that stuff, and how the hell could you not be? How could you be watching us right now talk about this stuff and not be a fan of that stuff?
You know,
you're going to love the show.
You know, it's interesting though. I was at a restaurant the other day, and we're all talking about some show, and the waitress comes up, and I forget even why she brought it up. She's like, "Oh yeah, I watched Stranger Things," and she's like, "I didn't like it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "How old are you?" She's like, 21. I'm like, "That's why."
Yeah.
And I don't actually even think that's it. Well, I don't think she understood. I said to her, "You didn't see all the references. You didn't see a lot of the fun."
Well, that's I think that's a huge element for sure. But the show couldn't exist just solely on that.
No, and that's exactly it too.
And I think it crosses a threshold.
Yeah.
There are moments in the show, in season 2, I think even especially because we have been around these characters and these actors for a little bit by this point, where it becomes riveting and you know, you can't take your eyes off of what you're seeing, and you are really deeply concerned for people in the program.
Oh, definitely.
And that's where the show kind of starts to become its own thing in a much grander way. So I agree with you. It doesn't shock like the first season, but I think as it should, and it's next year, it's maturing, it's becoming a better show.
It's not an introduction of characters anymore. The characters are introduced. Now it's time to introduce new characters and go from there. And I understood that.
Yeah.
But that's not taking anything away from season 2.
No.
Season 2 stands on its own.
I think it's phenomenal. I actually liked it more because I could see the machinery of the creators and the artists all
expanding
working. To build something with permanence. You know, the first one I think was this happy accident, and it was a risk, and who knew if everybody was going to love it.
Even the director said they were shocked.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, we have to make a season 2? What are we going to do?
And now it's pop culture, you know, at its finest, and it's something that all eyes are on it, and deservedly so. My question is, though, because it feels like it's pretty tidy.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some shocking stuff, but also some very complete. It feels complete. It feels satisfying. What the hell do they do now?
Well, I said this to my wife. I said there has to be more, you know, more at stake in the next season.
Yeah.
Some characters have to die.
Yeah.
Some characters we like need to go.
Yes.
And that makes the show stronger, showing that there is consequence. Because right now, I don't really feel there's a lot of consequence.
Nope.
I always feel like everybody's going to get out, and everybody's going to be okay. I'm not saying that there's not some shocks in there in this season, but I saw them all coming.
They'll find time to play D&D kind of thing.
That's another thing. I want them to play more D&D and get more into that, because that's what I love.
Well,
I grew up in that time playing that game.
Clearly, this is a hit, and clearly season 3 will start with them playing D&D.
It better start with that.
And everything has gone back to normal, and everything is fine, and then all hell's going to break loose.
All hell will break loose once again.
I love this show, though, and I am so incredibly impressed by what Netflix invested in and all of the creatives that built it, and I hope none of these kids turn into, you know, older douchebags. I hope that they all stay grounded and
I hope so too.
I know that Jose for EP has interviewed a bunch of these people. people too, and he just loved them. And
I
I've
think
heard
they're
nothing
really
but
sweet.
glowing reports from people that have interacted with all of them. And it's just
wait till their hormones. Wait till they get into their later teenage years. We'll wait for that.
These are kind of dark times in the entertainment industry. There's lots of weird news all the time, so it's nice to see something that's made with love sort of works so well, you know?
Absolutely.
And especially honor something that we love so much.
I know for all the 80s kids were like, yes, this show's made for me.
Yeah.
This is our show.
I know.
You know, this is our time. Our time. Sorry, that's a Goonies reference right there. So what are you going to give Stranger Things 2?
I freaking love this show. I'm going to give it a 9.5. How about you?
I loved it as well. Didn't like it as much as the first one, but I loved it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Gotta watch it.
So if you want to create creepy shows like Stranger Things 2, you can learn how to do so at the VFS School of Film. You can go to VFS.edu to learn more.